Hello. Hi, Malik. Can you hear me? I think you can unmute or you can type it in the chat box if you can hear me. Just like a hey or a hi. Yeah, you can hear me? Okay, good to know that. Hi, Malik. How are you doing? Okay, you're doing great. That's good to hear. I'm doing well. Thank you so much for asking. So, Malik, quickly before everyone else joins in, we'll be starting our webinar in like 8 minutes. So we have time. So we can, have quick conversations. If you would like to tell me which grade or standard you're studying in, let's start there. You're in grade 12th. All right. So basically, at the edge of starting your career. So Malik, any particular university or field that you've decided for yourself, or any country for that matter, that you want to pursue further? Not anything in particular yet. Okay. So any fields in mind, just like randomly, if you've thought about it, what you want to do in your career, any fields that you can come up with, because then I can, advise you further on how the admission process is. Oh, you want to do medicine? That's a very noble profession. Okay, good to know. And if, for example, you were given a choice between US, Canada, or UK, if you're, trying to pursue abroad education, which one would you choose? Pediatrics and MBBS. Okay, good to know. That's an amazing choice for medicine. USA or UK? Okay, got it. So, what I can do for you before we start our webinar is, search through our database and come up with a list of medical schools that can, potentially be a priority. But before I do that, I would like to ask, you have any idea of the admission process of US and UK colleges, or like how the brief of the admission is? If not, it's fine because then I can brief you about it. Okay, so you have no idea. All right. That's okay. It's fine. That's all right. So basically, US admissions are very different from UK admissions. Starting with the first point, apart from medicine, if you're applying for student visa in the US, there is no compulsion of any exam. But if you're applying to UK colleges, then it's compulsory for you to give an exam called IELTS. Let me just type it in the chat box for you. It's IELTS. So just to apply, yeah, I have applied for IELTS and SAT. Cool, correct. So for UK, it's compulsory if you want a student visa in UK, but for US, it's not compulsory. SATs, however, are not a compulsion for any of the university, but we do advise students to take up SAT and score well because SAT provides an advantage. Like it just proves how good you are academically as a student. So it does, provide an advantage for those students who have given SAT than those who have not given SAT. Okay, so quickly circling back to US and UK. So US admission process is it is not that straightforward as UK admission processes. What I mean is that for US, when you're applying, you have to give your profile, which is basically your extracurriculars plus your academic grades and your SAT scores and IELTS scores. And for UK, you will have to do the same. But for US, you need a GPA of, let's say, 3.5 and above. And for UK, if you want to get into the best schools in UK, then you will have to aim for a GPA that is like 4.0 and above. So that's the first difference. The second one for US and UK is that in US, whenever you're giving interviews or your college supplemental essays, if you're writing, today's webinar is about writing supplemental essays and stuff. So for that, in US, supplemental essays are about personal things like personality and stuff. And for UK, their interviews as well as their essays are about technical stuff. So like, for example, you're a medicine student, so they'll be asking you particular knowledge based questions about medicine for the UK interviews. But for US interviews, they're just interested in who you are as a person and your personality. And it's good to know that your extracurriculars are excellent. The academics are good, but not that great. That's okay. I'll let you in on a secret. Just give me 1 second. Shiza Fatima has also joined. Hi, Shiza. What's up? You can talk to me directly or in the chat box. Just type a hey or a hi. And just to give you a brief, we've just been discussing admissions in particular in medicine for US and UK. So Shiza, whenever you're ready, let me know in the chat box. And coming to Malik, but academics is not that great. Okay, so this is for both Shiza and Malik. The one thing that you all need to understand is for higher education in undergraduate, if you're going for abroad studies, they do not so much, this is for US, they do not so much care about your academics than they do your extracurricular. So this is something that people don't realize. People think that just because they have like excellent scores, that means they have a higher chance. That is not true. In the US, admissions for a lot of reasons depend on your extracurricular activities. In extracurriculars, your sports, your clubs, or volunteering work, internships, if you've done any, all of that comes under extracurricular. And most of your profile and your admission process in the US depends on your extracurricular. So yes, you should have fairly decent amount of grades and you should have like good GPA, but that does not mean that, just because you think they're not that excellent doesn't mean you won't stand a chance for admissions. Of course you will be if your extracurriculars are, good.
Yeah, my extracurriculars are like that great, but not the academic. Academic wise, I'm just like almost like around like 90, 80 to 90. But when compared to the curricular activities, I'm like a bit, in terms of public speaking or in terms
Right.
of group works, anything like that. I'm just very active.
Okay, but that's great news, right? If you've done specifically public speaking comes with a lot of leadership, personality building skills as well. So of course, all of that looks very good on the profile. So you don't have to worry so much about your academics. Just keep a percentage of maybe like, in between 85 to 90%, and I think you'll be good to go. So yeah. And Shiza, I see you've written hi. Hey Shiza, would you like to tell me which grade you're studying in, Shiza? Or is your name Fatima? Like, please let me know. And please tell me which grade you're studying in. Meanwhile, Malik, here is a list of medical schools from US that you can prioritize. So the first one is University of California, San Francisco. It's a really good medical school if you're studying in California, in University of California. Then we have Harvard Medical School, obviously. Harvard Medical School is known. There's also Yale School of Medicine. So in terms of if you want to choose between Harvard Medical School and Yale Medicinal School, you can choose both because both are at par, but the preference is given to Yale School of Medicine because the faculty over there is really, really good. And you can also apply to David Geffen School of Medicine at UCLA. So that is also one of the options. These are just some of the universities I'd like to mention for the US if you're applying to. And then there is a lot. There's also Johns Hopkins School. So that can also be one priority list. Okay, and Shiza has written you're in 12th. All right, Shiza. So like perfectly at the time to, start deciding about your career. Meanwhile, I would just like to say welcome, Ariane. Hello.
Hi, everyone. Hello. Thank you so much for joining. I think there's one other student who, I'm just sending her the link. There's one other student who wanted to join. So we'll start in a minute.
Yep. All right, guys. So we'll be starting in a minute. Meanwhile, Malik had asked, so I'll just give you a brief, Ariane. Malik is here for pursuing medicine, preferably in US or in UK. Okay. Shiza is in 12th. I'm not sure Shiza is applying for which. Shiza, could you let us know which field or university you want to apply to? And same goes for Nandita. Hey, Nandita, if you could let us know what you would like to pursue. Okay, Shiza is also for medical.
Okay.
And Malik would like to know a few things about scholarship, preferably. That was just a brief conversation. Yeah.
Sure. So in the States, as an international student, unfortunately, you would not qualify for federal financial aid. So that's financial aid that's awarded by the US government. That's only awarded to US citizens as well as those who are permanent residents of the US. However, you could apply for two things. You could apply for need-based financial aid still as an international student. It just wouldn't, the source of funding just wouldn't come from the US government. And you can also apply for merit scholarships, which is the more popular option. So merit scholarships are scholarships that are based off of your academic or extracurricular profile. Typically, there's no separate application process for that. So when you apply to the States or when you send in your application, specifically for the US, the admissions committee or the person that's reading your application will already determine whether you qualify for certain scholarships or not. However, some schools in the States do require an extra essay if you want to apply for a scholarship, such as Boston University. They have something called the Trustee Scholarship, which is a full ride scholarship, and they require, I believe, a 250-word essay for that. Other schools, such as USC, the University of Southern California, requires that you submit your applications early by the early December deadline in order to be considered for scholarships. Canada, similar to the States, they will determine whether you qualify for scholarships or not when they read your applications. The UK doesn't really offer as many scholarships as the US or Canada. Isn't there like SAT-based scholarship? Yeah, so I wouldn't call it an SAT-based scholarship, but what I just said about like merit-based scholarships, a lot of them they don't require the SAT nowadays, it's test optional, but in order to get a scholarship, it's preferred that you take the SAT. And usually, if you want to get a good scholarship, you should shoot for 1,500 or above. So 1,500 out of 1,600, or at least a 1,480 or higher. And that's for like the top tier universities, such as Harvard, Yale, Princeton, etc. Although I've had students who had a 1,370 and was still able to obtain scholarships. But ideally, 1,480 lowest or above would be really good and competitive. Were there any other questions before we start? Oh, just a minute.
Malik is writing SATs next month. I'm in a big mess. Well, Malik, you can, there's still a month left. You can always prepare. And, just to like add into this, LEAP also has an SAT program, which is basically starting on 7th of July, specifically for those students who are giving the August attempt. So if you would like to join in for that course can also help you, prepare for your SATs and, surely reach a score of 1,480 to 1,500 plus. And IELTS is, I think, necessary for UK for applying to student visa. I think Arian can confirm that, but it's not compulsory for US as much as I know.
Okay, so the IELTS, so actually the English proficiency exam is compulsory for the US if you're an international student. Not necessarily the IELTS, however. You can take other English proficiency exams such as the TOEFL, or even Duolingo exam is also it's accepted at some universities, although the most popular English proficiency exams are either TOEFL or IELTS. Now, Pearson is usually not allowed. Now, if you intend on applying to the UK or Canada, I highly suggest that I highly suggest that you take the IELTS, because in order to even go to Canada or the UK, you need to get your visa. In order to even obtain your visa, you're required to take the IELTS. The IELTS is out of 9, so 0 to 9. And to get the visa, to even qualify for a study visa, you need to have at least a 6.5 out of 9. A good score on the IELTS, however, would be a 7.5 or higher, but again, at least 6.5 or higher. Although I would check the specific university requirements, because some schools such as Oxford would require that you have around a 6.5 or a 7 or higher. There's some other schools that only allow you to get a 7 or higher in order to even be admitted. Now, the US actually prefers the TOEFL, but they will accept the IELTS. So if you plan on applying to the UK, Canada, US, IELTS would be the best option. Like, there's no need to take both the IELTS and the TOEFL. Okay. All right, so Ume can go ahead and start. We'll go ahead and start today. Yeah, the webinar.
All right. So welcome everyone to our webinar, and Ian will be discussing about supplemental essays and how to actually, dive into the finer details of what makes a great essay. Starting with Arian's introduction here, Arian Kilingo is an admission consultant and a video producer for LEAP. She's obtained her master's degree in international education policy from the Harvard Graduate School of Education, and also took courses at the Harvard Law School, Harvard Business School, John F. Kennedy School of Government, and the Harvard Divinity School. While at Harvard, she served as the project lead for developing an open e-learning course on diversity, equity, and inclusion for the UNESCO chair in open technologies for open educational resources and open learning. Arian is very committed to advancing education reform, especially in the ASEAN region. She was the first woman to serve as Education US Ambassador for the US Embassy in Manila. And since graduating with honors from Georgetown University in 2014, Arian has publicly spoken about cultural diplomacy, diversity and inclusion, and international higher education at various venues, such as the Harvard University, Georgetown University, Office of the Higher Education Commission of Thailand, Fulbright Thailand, and the British Council. If there's anyone who can guide you to your dream school, it is her. With that, I welcome you, Arian, and hope you will have a lovely evening with us.
Thank you. Thank you for that warm welcome. It's really a pleasure to conduct these webinars every Friday, as well as, I think this is the first time I'm doing it on a Tuesday. So today's webinar is going to be about supplemental essays. And if there's time, I'm also going to be addressing letters of recommendation, because I get a lot of students and parents asking me about the requirements for letters of recommendation. Let me go ahead and share my screen. So who knows, and I'm gonna be checking the chat every once in a while, and also this is a very interactive conversation. So who knows the difference between a personal statement and supplemental essay? Well, let's break that question down actually. So first of all, what is the personal statement? Can anyone tell me what's the personal statement? You can feel free to unmute yourself, or you could put it in the chat. Or a personal statement, personal opinion about something, that could be the personal statement, right? So I had said, I believe in one of my last meetings, I addressed what the personal statement is. So for the US versus UK, the personal statement is very, very different. In the US, they look for something like more creative. So a creative writing piece that addresses a moment of personal growth. So a very specific moment of your life, how you changed and matured and developed from a particular challenge or a moment of adversity, how you grew from that. So my boss used to say that the best personal statements are ones that talk about a moment of personal growth and how you've shifted, how your perspective and how yourself has shifted. For the UK, it's very, very different. It's basically a very straightforward essay, no creative writing, and it's what do you want to study and why? What are your qualifications? What courses have you taken that pertain to your desired major? So for example, I see in the chat that Nandita is highly interested in plant biology. So for example, let's say you're applying to the UK, you would have to specify, I want to study plant biology because, and then you would say the topics that, the particular specific topics that you're interested in biology, specifically plant biology. And you would also talk about anything like in terms of academics or extracurricular activities that relate to biology. So have you taken biology in high school? Have you done any internships? Have you done any research papers or any readings that pertain to plant biology? That's one example. Now, for the purpose of today, we're not going to be looking at the personal statement. I might be conducting another session on personal statements, but for today, we're looking at US supplemental essays. So we'll look at some essays from Duke University, Stanford University, Purdue University, as well as the UCs and maybe NYU. So all of these essays, by the way, that I'm going to show you today are actually written by students who got into each of these universities. So the one that I'm going to show you from Stanford, he got into Stanford 2 years ago. So he was one of my students who got into Stanford 2 years ago. I'm going to show you some of these Stanford essays so you get a glimpse of what would be like a scholarship winning essay, as well as what sorts of vocabulary words and grammatical structures you should use in order to really make or create and draft a good essay. I want to stress that unlike Canada, so the US places a lot of importance on essays. So not just grades, but also non-academic factors. So in the chat, and this is a quiz for you guys, what are some non-academic factors that you think US admissions committees look at? So I mentioned a few already, one of them already, but what are some non-academic factors? So by academic factors, I'm referring to SAT score and grades. Aside from SAT score and grades, what else do you think they look at? Feel free to type it in the chat. Yep, you got it. So extracurricular activities, absolutely. They will also look at, oh, that's a good one that Malik mentioned. Let me address that. Okay, these are all great things. So I'm gonna address everything that you've mentioned. So extracurricular activities, absolutely. So in the UK, does anyone intend on applying to the UK? Yes. Okay, me, of course. So in the UK, they don't call it extracurricular activities, they call it supercurricular activities. And I'm going to tell you the difference. So extracurricular activities, so let me start with supercurricular actually. Supercurricular activities are career-centered activities. So again, let's take the example of plant biology. They want to know what specific activities you've done that relate to biology as a whole or plant biology. Have you done any research projects? Have you done any internships, or have you read anything that's related to plant biology? Extracurricular activities is what the US focuses on. So these do not have to necessarily be career-centered. These can be any sorts of activities: football, basketball, art, dance, music, etc. So in the US, they really value well-rounded individuals. For example, my student who got into the Wharton School of Business, which is the #1 business school, she got in for finance. She actually submitted an art portfolio. Now it's supplemental, it's optional. She didn't need to, but she wanted to. And because of that, because she presented herself as this well-rounded student, she was able to get into UPenn early. Specifically, she prepared like a supplemental arts portfolio, but it was piano. So it was a video clips of her playing the piano that she submitted. Awards, yes, those count. Your personality. So Malik had said your personality. Oh. Yes, college admissions interviews are often a part of the application process or the admissions process. I myself have been an interviewer since 2014. I've interviewed students applying to Georgetown University, where I went for undergraduate school. So I'm actually, this year and last year, I was the co-chair of the alumni admissions program. So I'm very, very well aware of what sorts of questions we ask students. And And one of the things that we do look at is the student's personality. Are they engaging? Do they ask us questions at the end? And by the way, when an interviewer asks you, do you have any questions for me? You should always have 2 to 3 questions in mind, because it shows that you're a curious student, a curious person. Asif said games and non-academic activities. Yeah, so if you're into any sports or even esports, I have a few students actually who wrote about esports in their essays. That could also count. I can sing, yep. So that would also count as an extracurricular activity. Some other non-academic factors include letters of recommendation. So these are recommendations from your teachers as well as counselors or any other internship supervisors. And I'll talk about letters of recommendation towards the end of the session. Also, I think I mentioned, yeah, those are the main factors. So they'll look at activities, grades, SAT scores optional, but preferred, letters of recommendation, awards. But I never won anything though, like first place. I got third and second. That's perfectly fine. So some of my students who got into really good schools, they didn't really have first place awards. In general, in Dubai, I feel like there aren't a lot of opportunities for student competitions. So universities are very understanding of that. However, she did pursue, like, at least you should report, I would say, at least 2 awards that you've received from grade 9 onwards. So let's go on, let's move forward. I want to get to the essays. And I'm gonna zoom in quite a bit because I want to go through a bad example and a good example. So this is for a student who got into Duke University. This bad example obviously was not submitted to Duke, but the good example was, and this person did get into Duke. So this is the question. And just to define what a supplemental essay is, supplemental essays are university-specific questions. So along with your personal statement, oftentimes colleges and universities in the US, they ask extra essays. So for example, NYU, every single year, they ask the exact same question, why NYU? So what motivated you to apply to NYU? And every year it's 400 words. In the case of Duke University, and we'll look at Stanford and some other university requirements as well, but Duke University, I can't recall how many supplemental essays they ask for. I think they ask for more than 1, but for this particular example, we'll just look at 1. Stanford and the more competitive universities tend to ask for a lot. So for example, Harvard asks for 3, at least they did last year. Yale University asks for 7, and I had a student who got into Yale. If we have time, we could probably look at her essays. And Stanford, I'm going to show you Stanford's essays. They ask for 10 to 13 every year. Now, the thing is, sometimes the essay prompts change per year. So we won't know the actual essay prompts for this coming fall 2023 admission cycle until August. So the applications open August 1st. I see a question in the chat. Will we get only 1 supplementary essay or depends on the uni? So yeah, so as mentioned, it depends on the university. Stanford can get 10 to 13. NYU is 1 essay. UPenn is 2 essays. So let's start with Duke. Duke is asking, please discuss why you consider Duke a good match for you. Is there something in particular at Duke that attracts you? Please limit your response to 1 paragraph. Before we go into the samples, the bad example and the good example, I want to really break down this essay prompt with you. So almost every university that you apply to will ask a why question. Why do you want to go to this university? I have a particular formula for that I use with my students. I always tell them to research and to include at least 1 academic component and 1 extracurricular component in their Y essays. The academic component can either be a professor that they like at the school or a course that they like at the school. The extracurricular component can be a club or an organization that they want to join. So for example, maybe they want to play football or they want to join the table tennis team, or an undergraduate research opportunity or an internship. So there's a number of things that you can include in your Y essay, but to break it down, you should include an academic component and an extracurricular component. Extracurricular meaning something outside of the classroom. Please limit your response to 1 paragraph. It's very, very, very important that you follow instructions. If you write 3 paragraphs or 5 paragraphs instead of 1 paragraph, that could lead to automatic rejection. And usually admissions officers are not lenient if you do not follow instructions because they receive so many applications. One quick way that they can remove people from their applicant pool is if they don't follow instructions. So let's look at this bad example. And I want you to pay attention to why this is bad, because my question that I'm going to ask you in the chat is, why do you think this is a bad essay? So I'm going to read it out loud. I believe the Trinity College of Arts and Sciences at Duke is an excellent match for me. I believe college should not be merely a gateway to the workforce. It should educate the student in a variety of subjects and prepare him or her for the range of challenges and opportunities that lie ahead in life. I have always been a curious person and enjoy reading all kinds of literature and nonfiction. In high school, I excelled in history, English, AP psychology, and other liberal arts subjects. I have not yet decided on a major, but when I do, it will almost certainly be in the liberal arts, such as history or political science. I know that Trinity College is very strong in these areas. But regardless of my major, I want to receive a broad education that spans a variety of areas in the liberal arts, so that I will graduate as not only a viable job prospect, but also as a well-rounded and learned adult who can make diverse and valuable contributions to my community. I believe Duke's Trinity College will help me grow and become that kind of person. What's wrong with this essay? Anyone? There's one main thing that I'm looking for. So what do you think is wrong with this particular essay? Too generic, yes. Malik, may I ask, can you clarify not a fixed future of the author? Oh, okay, sorry. Not a fixed future, like, do you mean like he doesn't know what he wants to be yet? Doesn't talk about uni much? Okay, all right, so we have the right answers that I was looking for. Too generic and does not talk about the university much. Malik, I think when you say not a fixed future, he said his major is not prepared. Okay, so the US, I want to clarify. Something that's really unique about the US college admissions process is that they will allow you to apply undecided or undeclared. So if you don't know what you want to study yet, that's perfectly fine. UK and Canada, you can't do that. You have to know what you want to study. But in the US, you can apply undecided or undeclared. And you would have to secure or confirm what you want to major in by the end of your second year of college in the US. But as mentioned, as some of you guys mentioned in the chat, this has nothing to do, like he does not, so this person, the student, does not say anything about Duke, anything specific about Duke. It's very vague. There's no specific courses that he mentions. There's no specific clubs or organizations, no research opportunities, no professors. Now we're gonna look at this good example. This is quite a long paragraph, but I'm gonna read it out loud because it's worth it. When I visited the Duke campus last fall, I immediately felt at home. The Gothic architecture and tree-shaded walks created an atmosphere of peaceful but serious reflection. The place is at once Southern, which as an Alabamian is important to me, Alabama, is important to me, and universal as it reflects the traditions of Europe and the classical world. So here, sorry to pause, but here the student is already talking about like the campus itself, the architecture, very specific to Duke. The wrong thing about this bad example is that he can literally say this for any other college or university. There's nothing that's specific to Duke except for when he mentions Duke's Trinity College. But again, he can easily replace this with another university. All right, where were we? Okay, the Trinity College Liberal Arts curriculum also reflects this unique pairing of the modern South and the global past. For example, I am considering a major in history and I'm very interested in the combination of geographic and thematic areas of study offered by Duke's history program. The combinations of areas offer seeming endless areas of specialization. This should be seemingly. One interesting possibility is a focus in the geographic area of the US and Canada, combined with a thematic study of women and gender or African diaspora. By juxtaposing and intertwining these two foci, my understanding of the American South and much more would be greatly enriched. This innovative and flexible approach to both traditional and non-traditional subject matter is greatly appealing to me. I know by reputation and from a friend currently enrolled in Trinity College that the liberal arts curriculum is very challenging, but also rewarding. I believe I am more than prepared for these challenges and that I will thrive in this climate. Duke University's campus already feels like home. I believe that its academic opportunities will also provide a stimulating environment in which I feel I belong. So I think that this is a really great example. Can anyone in the chats mention why this is a good example? So what are some features of this essay that you think are good? Talks about the campus, okay. Okay, so picks out areas of Duke that relate to his interests, tells about the curriculum he is interested and the culture, correct. Just one moment. Okay, so picks out areas of, yeah. Nandita, I want to highlight what you said. So what I liked about what you said is that he picks out areas of Duke that relate to his interests, and also he relates Duke to his own personal interests. It's very important to find in your essays, for the why essays in particular, you should be able to form a link between what you specifically want to study and what is offered at the university. By doing so, you're going to show that you're a good fit for the university. Yeah, and Malik, you're totally right. So he talks about the curriculum pretty much in depth, and he really shows and demonstrates that he has good knowledge about the curriculum at Duke. Okay, so now I want to look at another essay. Stanford is next. Stanford has 10 essays. There was one year when they had 13, there was another year when they had 12, but in this particular one, they have 10. I'm not going to go through all 10, but I'm going to go through some of them with you. So the first essay is Stanford students, and this person got into Stanford, by the way. Every year they ask this question. Stanford students possess an intellectual vitality. Reflect on an idea or experience that has been important to your intellectual development. So essentially, this is like, oh, what do you want to major in and why essay? Typically, students talk about their major in this, although I have a student and she got into Yale. She talked about dreams for this essay. So she talked about the psychology of dreams. And she also, I think she brought up sleep paralysis. Has anyone here had sleep paralysis before in the chat? Yes, no? Yeah, it's quite scary, right? So if you want to be unique, you could talk about something other than your major. However, my recommendation to you is that you talk about your major, but you choose a specific topic that's unique. So, for example, the Yale student, she's interested in psychology, but she chose to talk about sleep paralysis and dreams, and then eventually she related these to psychology. This is always asked as well. So virtually all of Stanford's undergraduates live on campus. Write a note to your future roommate that reveals something about you and that will help your roommate and us know you better. Usually a letter begins with "Dear roommate," but as you can see, he or she, no, this is a he, started with a unique beginning, intro. The intro is, "I like cats and desperately wish that I could be one. One time while conducting research on how to transfigure into a member of the Felidae family, I found this Chinese myth." So really random introduction. The US loves that. The US really loves creative writing. So you don't have to, again, you don't have to really begin with a "dear person" or "dear roommate" layout, even if it's supposed to be a letter to your roommate or a note to your roommate. So the ones that I did want to read out loud to you are these ones. So this one is what matters to you most and why, or sorry, what matters to you and why. 100 and 250 words, 100 to 250 words. I want to highlight, by the way, that you need to be within the word limit. If you write 251 words, you're not even allowed to press submit on the application. You have to be within the word limit. So let me just zoom in a little bit so you can see. Okay. Living in the country with the greatest number of migrant workers in the world has been fascinating, but also frustrating and soul-crushing. Workers from around the world, ranging from petroleum engineers to taxi drivers, and petroleum engineers working as taxi drivers, come here with dreams of making enough money to climb the socioeconomic ladder, or at least pay for an education that will enable their children to do so. Yet their dreams are often crushed by unfair laws and a convoluted bureaucracy whose intricacies and arbitrariness prevents them from bettering themselves through honest labor. Seeing this inevitably reminds me of my Mexican brothers and sisters in the United States facing a similar situation. I want to highlight, so this, just for context, this person, this student, if I remember correctly, is Mexican American, but had moved to Dubai. And it has inspired me to pursue a career as an immigration lawyer, an activist, and perhaps even a politician in the distant future. I dream of a world in which someone's passport or migratory status will not limit their access to education, healthcare, and employment. And I want to spend my life fighting to make migration easier, safer, and fairer. What do you like about this essay? Anything? Bringing a problem into the limelight, right? So he's bringing a social cause or a social problem into the limelight. Nandita, absolutely correct. It's passionate. So you could really see his passion, and you could really see that he's very genuine about this cause because he's able to relate it to himself. I don't have a copy of his personal statement, unfortunately, but he talked about immigrating to Dubai, like migrating from Mexico to Dubai, and how it was a challenge for him. Okay, so now I want to look at, I'll skip this one. How did you spend your last 2 summers? So even though Stanford, by the way, has 10 essays, some of the essays, as you can see, are 50 words. So they're not really essays, they're more like short little snippets that you would have to write. So we can also take from our life, right? Yes, so to address Malik's question, you should actually make things personal for the US supplemental essays and personal statement. You should take aspects of your life experiences and integrate those into your essays. but it also depends on the prompt, as we'll see. So how did you spend your last 2 summers? Last summer, I interned with the Asset Management Division of National Bank of Abu Dhabi, and then participated in a debate chamber summer school in London. The previous summer, I traveled to Mexico and worked intensely on my family tree, successfully charting my ancestry across 5 generations in 4 countries. So as you can see, you don't have to be you don't have to be creative. You don't have to utilize creative writing in all of your essays, especially in these shorter ones. It's kind of hard to be creative given the word limits. So just writing in a straightforward manner is perfectly fine. What historical moment or event do you wish you could have witnessed? He said the Battle of Pelusium between ancient Persia and Egypt. So I highly recommend you, if you plan on applying to Stanford or Emory University. So Emory is really good for pre-law. They also ask this exact same question. Emory is also good for pre-med as well, pre-medicine. I highly recommend that you answer something unique. Don't say the day the world was made or something. So as you can see, this battle is very specific, very unique. Another answer, so I guess I don't know if this would be considered unique or not, but one of my former students, he answered the very first Olympics. For me, it was unique because he's a swimmer, and so he was able to relate his swimming experience to how he would want to watch the very first Olympics in order to see like their swimming styles. So again, he made it personal. What 5 words best describe you? Rapacious eater of California rolls. So usually when you use 5 words to describe yourself, it's typical for students to just choose 5 different adjectives. This person chose to write like a phrase, so rapacious eater of California rolls. Okay. So I want to go over some of these 3 because Columbia University, does anyone intend on applying to Columbia? It's an Ivy League school in New York. Yes, no, maybe. So regardless of whether you want to apply there or not, Columbia asks these same questions. So what were your favorite events? So these could be performances, exhibits, competitions, conferences in recent years. Name your favorite books, authors, films, and or artists. What newspapers, magazines, and or websites do you enjoy? Again, each of these is 50 words maximum. So when you do this, you could list it down as the student did. Something that I would also do, so you could either list it down like this as he did, or something that my boss had actually recommended is that you list down the book and the author, and then you put like a colon or a dash, and then you write a small description as to why you like that book. Why do you like that book? Why is it your favorite book? Maybe I really relate to this character in the book, or I find the plot very fascinating, or I think the plot twist is one of the most interesting that I've read. Those are some examples, but the more specific you are, the better. Again, for this, rather than just listing it down like this, if I were to give feedback to the student, I mean, he got into Stanford, but if I were to change this answer, I would put like a colon or a dash, and then just a small description as to why he's drawn to these newspapers. So for example, with Middle East Eye, he could say, I really love reading, specifically, I love reading about relations between the Gulf countries like Bahrain and Qatar. With Philosopher's Beard, he could talk about like what specific philosophy article that he liked from Philosopher's Beard. So those are some examples. So unlike Stanford, we have Purdue University. Does anyone like artificial intelligence or computer science here? Yes, no? Yep, okay. So I highly recommend that you consider Purdue University. I would also recommend UIUC, so that's the University of Illinois Urbana-Champaign. UMass Amherst, that's the University of Massachusetts Amherst. And there's another one that I would recommend to you. But yeah, those three for now. So Purdue, UMass Amherst, and UIUC. Okay. So how will opportunities at Purdue support your interests both in and out of the classroom? I'm going to read these out loud because it's only 100 words. So these are the main two essays, by the way, that are asked by Purdue. Now, Purdue gives you the opportunity, and not just Purdue, but other universities, not all universities, but some universities will allow you to specify a second choice major. But for the most part, I mean, this is optional. This is only if you choose a second choice major. Okay. So from passionate professors to advanced laboratories, Purdue has everything I need to excel in STEM. Studying the modeling of electric machinery at the Energy Conversion Research Laboratory will be exciting. I look forward to engaging with EPICS for the betterment of the community and student-led initiatives like Purdue Lunabotics. Moreover, Purdue Foundry will support my entrepreneurial inclinations while the ECE 47,000 course will supplement my professional development as I take on internships. Lastly, the Purdue Photography Club will allow me to de-stress and frame the beauty of West Lafayette with my camera. On that note, I'm ready to boiler up. Very clever ending. So boiler up is actually like the slogan of, or like the main motto of Purdue University. So as you can see, he was very specific. It's clear that he did his research on Purdue. He mentioned very specific academic and extracurricular opportunities. For example, he mentioned the research lab. He mentioned Purdue Lunabotics, so student-led initiatives. He mentioned a course, photography club. And again, the things that you should mention don't necessarily have to be academic. You should mention something academic, but you could also mention something extracurricular that's not necessarily related to your major. So for example, the photography club. Something that I don't like about this essay is that I personally feel, even though the student got into Purdue, but something I don't like about this is that he listed down way too many things, like way too many activities and courses and such. If I were him, and this is my advice to you as well, I would only focus on maybe 3 things maximum, especially for such a short essay, 100 words or fewer, and elaborate on why you're interested in those 3 things. So for example, if I were the student, maybe I would talk about why exactly is he interested in the Energy Conversion Research Laboratory? What sort of research does he hope to pursue at this laboratory? Why does he want to join Purdue Lunabotics? He didn't really mention why he's interested in this student-led initiative. So that's a piece that's missing from this essay. It seems more like a list rather than elaborating as to why he chose these things. All right, and then let's look at this. I have always, so the question here is, please discuss your reasons for pursuing the major you've selected. I have always wondered about the nature and function of electric machinery. Some of my questions were answered by high school mathematics and physics classes, but my curiosity continued to grow. Based on my own experience with little breadboard circuits and an online course on electronic systems from the University of Birmingham, I'm greatly inclined towards electric and computer engineering. I want to be at the forefront of designing and constructing more efficient technologies in power generation, especially in the field of sustainable energy. I want to break this down. This is the perfect essay for this sort of prompt. The reason why I like this essay is for a few reasons. So I'll break it down sentence by sentence. He mentions right away that he's into the nature and function of electric machinery. So that's a very specific topic. He mentioned high school classes that are related to the field that he's interested in. He mentioned his own experience. This is important. So when you're asked, describe or discuss the reasons for pursuing the major you've selected, you should absolutely bring up your own experiences that you've done, whether it's an online course or an internship that relates to what you want to study. Here, he brought up these little breadboard circuits and an electronic systems course from the University of Birmingham. And then I really love this last sentence. The reason why this last sentence is really good is because he also addressed what his future career goals or plans are. So his goal is to design and construct more efficient technologies in power generation, especially in the field of sustainable energy. So this piece is important because he's narrowing it down to a specific field. All right, guys, so we went through half of the supplemental essays that I wanted to show you. We're going to take a pause really quick. I would like Ume to talk about our counseling packages, our programs that we offer at LEAP. Ume, do you by chance have a copy of that? If you could share your screen? Okay.
Yeah, I'll share.
Okay.
Just 1 second. Hey guys, so meanwhile, till I share the screen, how is the webinar going? Whether you're finding this helpful, not helpful, please let us know in the chat box. It's great to always have feedback from our students. We treasure it a lot. All right, so coming to the undergraduate counseling slides. So basically at LEAP, we have mentorship programs specifically curated for students who are looking for abroad education, right? And the first thing we provide is profile building. I think in the beginning of the webinar, as well as when Aiden was mentioning about US and UK and how they look at students, profile building is one of the most important factors of your admission, because your scores are only going to get you through the door, but like to actually win out your admission, you'll have to have a very strong profile of extracurriculars as well. So we help you get internships. We also help you with volunteering work and enlist you over there if that's something you're interested in. We can also help you build your profile according to what you want to pursue in your future, so that helps you stand out from the crowd. The second thing that we do is find out which colleges are best suited for you. So that's so important, right? At at your age, when you all are in 11th or 12th standard, you might be so confused as to which college is going to best suit your career. So you don't have to worry about that, because our mentors sit with you and they make a priority list of all the colleges that you can apply to, which are best suited career-wise for you. The third thing that we help with is personal statements, set of recommendations, and supplemental essays. Specifically, today's webinar is exactly about that. And Arian will actually, if you are taking up our mentorship program, she'll be able to sit with you and actually brainstorm your personal statements, as well as help you edit them out very clearly on how to actually look at the finer details of what makes an essay cross the river and actually land you that admission. The next thing that we also provide is advice on scholarships, and we also help with financial guidance. This is something that I think one of the students in the webinar had also asked. So of course, abroad education can be a bit on the expensive side of things, and we also give you help with scholarships, and we can also provide you financial guidance if that is something you require. And last but not the least, we also provide visa assistance. And what that basically means is that student visa procedures can be a little tedious for everyone. When you come to us and register with our mentorship program, we'll make sure that the entire documentation procedure of your visas will be done by us, and we can also help you with mock interviews before you finally step into your original interview. So I think that is about what we provide at our counseling sessions. Moving on to the next slide, of course, you've met Arian. She's one of our mentors. She is a graduate from Harvard University and a graduate from Georgetown University, both top colleges in the global rankings. Now, let me talk a little bit about where our students have been admitted to through our help. So our students have gotten admission to Yale. Our students are at Wharton, at Cornell, all three of them being top Ivy League colleges in the world. We also have students at NYU, that is New York University. We have students at USC. We have students at UC Berkeley, University of Michigan, Duke, Emory, University of Illinois, Carnegie Mellon, UC San Diego. Again, these are just a glimpse of where our students have been admitted to through our help, but these are the top listed 35 universities in the world to have existed. So you can understand the kind of quality and the kind of help that we try to provide our students with. So quickly moving on to the mentorship program, we have 4 mentorship programs. First one is the Iwa Advising program, specifically for all of you all who have a dream to get into Ivy League colleges like Harvard, like Yale, Princeton, Brown. This is the program for you. It is specifically tailored to help students get to Ivy League colleges. We have a second mentorship program that is Global Advising, which is for universities across the planet. We also have an elite advising program, and we have a specific profile building program, which is specific to your profile development. The prizes for all 4 of these mentorships are written on your screen. And if you would like to join any of these mentorship programs, or if you would like to get to know more information about it, please type down your name in the chat box and I'll be able to note it down and my team can contact you further. Before I end this, just a brief note that Arian also takes up one-on-one demo sessions, which are absolutely free. You can book a demo session with Arian. That is going to be 1 hour of personalized session with her based on what you want to do in your career, and she can help you further with it. If you would like to book a demo session with us, please let us know in the chat box and our team will be able to take it further from there. Thank you so much for listening, guys. Thanks,
Okay.
Nandita, and thanks, Malik, for the kind words.
Oh, I think Miss Nandita thinks that we ended the call or the session, but we didn't. Is there a way, well, we could talk about this later, but maybe you could get her info later, Ume?
Yeah, I'll do that.
Okay, cool. So in the meantime, now I would like for us, I'm going to reshare my screen. Okay. I'd like for us to talk a little bit about, I'll show one last essay, and then I would like for us, and this essay is a student who got into NYU, so New York University. And I actually helped her personally, and she was one of my really hardworking students, a little bit lazy at first, but then ultimately I really loved how her essays came out. So I'm gonna go over her essay with you. And then lastly, I'm gonna talk about the letters of recommendation with you. Okay, so here's the prompt. Let me zoom in a little bit. We'd like to know more about your interest in NYU. What motivated you to apply? Why have you applied or expressed interest in a particular campus, school, college, program, or area of study? And if you have applied to more than one campus, tell us why you're interested in these additional areas of study or campuses. Okay, so essentially it's why NYU in 400 words. So again, this is my student, and she did a very creative job. And let me read the essay for you guys. So harmonious hues, precise lines, and sophisticated composition provide color to my character. My pet peeves in presentations typically include the use of Comic Sans, lack of contrasting colors, and disproportionate kerning. However, I found myself captivated by the presentation of the NYU admissions officer during his talk in Dubai. One characteristic that stood out to me in particular was each letter of the title slides being in a different font. For me, it symbolized the impression of NYU itself, a university that celebrates quirks and peculiarities. I can't really pronounce that. As a student with an amalgamation of passions for art, engineering, and natural sciences, I perceive NYU as the ideal institution to explore each of my intersecting passions. I'm drawn to the plethora of academic and extracurricular offerings at NYU. I'm keen on working with Professor Tega Brain of the Integrated Digital Media faculty, as her specializations in art and environmental technology align with my own interests. If I were to study at NYU Abu Dhabi, I'd like to take a course taught by Professor Mohammed Eid. His insights on gaming and multimodal human-computer interaction would be particularly helpful for the program that I am creating that analyzes Mario Kart statistics. Very unique. Beyond, okay, wait, I just want to highlight this sentence because I think that it's really a perfect sentence. This is an example of something that you need to do in your essays as well. You have to choose like a professor whose interests or research areas align with yours. So in particular, Professor Mohammed Eid, he does research on gaming and multimodal human-computer interaction. And so that's under the computer science program at NYU. And then she related that to a program that she's doing to analyze Mario Kart statistics. So Mario Kart, as you guys probably know, is a video game. Beyond the classroom, I can further my various interests through joining different clubs and exploring NYU's many facilities. The Space Exploration Society at Tandon would broaden my knowledge of coding for aerospace engineering. And I would have the opportunity to work on multidisciplinary projects with students from different departments through vertically integrated projects. In addition to broadening my knowledge of STEM subjects, I aim to educate myself on left-wing politics and social movements through the resources available at the Tamiment Library. As New York is the international hub for equity, diversity, and pride, I'm excited by the prospect of participating in my first protest and other cultural and social events. NYU serves as the ideal institution for me to further enrich my knowledge of engineering. I look forward to tackling new challenges, kindling my curiosity, and appreciating every detail and moment of my time there. Whether humanist, modern, slab, or geometric, serif, or sans serif, each letter and identity is noteworthy and original. I look forward to being part of a university environment where I believe everything that makes you unique, distinctive, and diverse can be truly celebrated and explored. So I love this essay because she starts with this unique font thing. She's really into art along with computer science. So in the beginning, she was talking about harmonious hues, precise lines, composition. She was referring to font and like computer fonts. And then at the end, she refers to it again when she says serif or sans serif, geometric, each letter. So she really, by referring to the fonts both in the intro and the conclusion, everything circles back and loops back. So it really comes full circle. Everything connects well. Her essay is good also because she talks about specific academic things she likes. So again, she highlighted Professor Mohammed Eid and his research, and she relates it to her own research and her own interests. She talked about the Space Exploration Society. So I think she did a really great job in highlighting things that she liked. And unlike the Purdue essay that I showed you, she didn't list down all these NYU things. She really took her time to explain maybe I think she mentioned maybe in total 3 or 4 things that she likes about the university. So she mentioned this professor, the Space Exploration Society, and then the vertically integrated projects. And then the other thing that she mentioned was, this isn't really NYU related, but in New York, you know, it's very cultural, diverse. So she mentioned that as well. Whereas that 100-word essay from Purdue, he mentioned like 5 things in 100 words. You shouldn't be doing that. So don't list things down, just focus on 3 to 5 opportunities in total from the university and relate it to your own experience. Okay. So these are the main essays that I wanted to show you. Now what I'm gonna do is I will address any questions that you have. I'll also talk a little bit about letters of recommendation. Letters of recommendation. So you need to have at least 2, although some schools will allow you to submit up to 3 letters of recommendation, but typically the requirement is 2. You also are allowed to submit for some universities, like Columbia University, for example, a supplemental recommendation from an internship supervisor or from a coach, etc. And, your counselor recommendation as well. So does anyone else have any questions? In the meantime, I also want to reiterate, so with these free demo sessions, I go over your academic and extracurricular profile. This is 1 hour free session. We'll go over your profile together. I'll identify any gaps in your academics or your extracurricular profile. And usually in that session, I give you a list of online courses and internships that you can pursue. Internships and the online courses are free, online, and self-paced. Has anyone here not done any internships yet? Yes, no? Me? You have not done them yet. Okay. So if you want to avail of that free one-on-one session with me, please email me. I'm going to put my email in the chat so you guys have it. Or I could just ask you now, does anyone want to have a free demo session with me this week or next week? Or maybe if you want time to think about it, you could just email me directly. But again, it's totally free. It could be this week or next week. It's up to you, Malik. So feel free to email me if you would like that, or you could put your email in the chat and I can email you. Yeah. So I can schedule that. Again, it's completely free. Another thing that we can talk about during our free session is universities. So I'll give you a list of universities to consider given your academic and extracurricular profile and interests. Okay. In the meantime, I can answer any questions, or I could also show you one last thing, which is the letter of recommendation. So you're actually not supposed to see this, but I have the form that will actually be sent to your teachers. So let me actually show it to you, just so you know what you're evaluated on. Okay, here we go. So when you request for letters of recommendation, you yourself will not have the ability to read these letters. What you'll do is very simple. All you have to do, and this is for both the US and the UK, you just put in the application portal. So in the case of the US, it's called the Common App. For the UK, it's called the UCAS. You input the name of your teacher, the email address of your teacher, the title of your teacher. What science, do they teach science or math or English? Like what subject do they teach? And then the Common App or the UCAS will contact your teacher directly to submit the letter of recommendation. So this is what you would fill out. So your name, Common App ID, birthday, address, school. For here, you have to waive your right. What that means is that you waive your right to read the applications, or sorry, the recommendations. If you choose that you do not waive your right, and if you give yourself permission to read the recommendations, that actually hurts your admissions chances. So you have to waive your right. And then you have to sign. And then this is what your teacher fills out. So the teacher fills out the name, just very basic information, school address, telephone, email, subject taught. How long have you known the student? How would you describe the student in a few words? What are the first words that come to mind? Which grade levels did you teach the student? The courses that they taught you? And then this is the main thing that I wanted to show you guys. So your teacher will rate you either below average, average, good, very good, excellent, outstanding, or one of the top few they've encountered for the following: academic achievement, intellectual promise, quality of writing, creativity, productive class discussion. So keep in mind, it's very important for you to participate in class when you have the opportunity. Respect, discipline, maturity, motivation, leadership, integrity, reaction to setbacks, concern for others, self-confidence, initiative, or independence. And then here is the letter. So usually the letter is about 1 page long, single spaced. My recommendation to you is to really get your teacher to write very specific things about you. So if you excelled, if you did well in a specific assignment or project, if they could talk about that in your recommendation, that would be good. If they're generic and vague, that's not going to be good. Okay, guys, so now is the time for me to answer any questions that you might have. I'm going to have another session, I think, this coming Friday. And yeah, so do any of you guys have any questions? And I just want to remind you again, if you want to have that free demo session with me either this week or next week, please email me. Also, if you want a copy of the Zoom recording of this session, you can also email me. And unfortunately, I won't be able to give you the recording like right now, but I can give it to you within the next few days. Okay. How do I know whether public or liberal schools will be a better fit for me? I'm interested in Platt Sciences and have looked into 3 unis you mentioned, Purdue, UIUC, Amherst. The large number of students there is a bit daunting, but I know the research opportunities would be better there. Okay. Tarana, would you be free for like a demo session by any chance? Because I think it would be better to discuss this in a meeting, but I can answer briefly now as well. So if you find that the number of students is daunting, then I would not, what's it called, recommend public universities for you. So for example, UC Berkeley, 30,000 undergraduate students, and that's only undergraduate students. That's not counting PhD and master's students. So in general, I'm going to tell you something about public universities. In general, public universities are like they pay attention to numbers, first of all. What I mean by that is that in admissions, they pay attention to your grades and your SAT score if you've submitted any scores, although the UCs don't look at SAT anymore. And second, public universities always tend to be larger than private universities. Another thing about public universities, they don't tend to give scholarships or as good scholarships as private universities. So in your case, Tarana, given your interests, I would probably suggest that you pay more attention to private schools rather than public schools. Private schools also have really great research programs as well. So the reason why I would suggest private schools to you, mostly for 2 reasons. One, the size, like the size of the undergraduate population, and also because of the size of the classes, it won't be as daunting. With smaller class sizes, that's to your benefit, by the way, because you have more interaction with the professor. So you get more individualized feedback on your work. Second thing is because private schools tend to offer more scholarships than public schools. So Tarana, my advice to you is apply more to private schools, focus on private schools. Any other questions? You're welcome.
All right, guys, this is just a reminder. If any of you would like to book a one-on-one session with Adrian, please let us know. Now is the time to let us know about it.
Yeah. Or you could email me again if you want to think more about it. So also in the session, for example, with Tarana, if you want me to give you a list of schools to consider, I could give you a more detailed list of schools, but my general advice for you as of now is to focus on private universities. Liberal arts colleges are also an option, although liberal arts colleges tend to focus more on the social sciences like psychology, sociology, English, etc., and humanities. Okay, guys, so I think that's all for now. I'm gonna have another session on Friday. You're welcome, Rania. Thank you so much for joining.
All right, guys, if there are no further questions, we can end the session here. Thank you so much for joining, and please keep taking care of yourselves, and see you on Friday if that's something you're looking forward to. Thank you so much.